So essentially, this is my podcast. So I'm not exactly the most comfortable person. Like I tried this a couple of times before. It just wasn't working. I sounded awkward. I wasn't really getting the hang of things, and it was just uncomfortable. So, you know, I'm trying now. I'm trying to be more confident in terms of my speaking and sound a little more normal, kind of like how you talk to someone like who's your friend or you're trying to explain something. That's kind of my mindset right now in trying to actually speak. I'm also looking at memes right now to make me more comfortable. Um, but yeah, so why did I start a podcast? Like the people who are probably going to be listening to this are, some of my friends, most likely. Maybe some old friends if you've seen this on social media and you're like, hey, what's Brandon up to? Um, so yeah, back to why I'm doing this. Well, the first reason is because I want to look back on this years from now and just kind of, you know, um, see what my view on things was, or like how I talked, how my voice changed, yeah, like the topics that were prevalent to me back then, how I stressed about things that may not stress me in the future. But regardless, the second reason is actually kind of practical. I wanted to get better at communicating and just kind of getting more comfortable with my voice. Because in the future, I do plan to kind of pursue a career that does require a lot of communicating with others, regardless of who they are, or why did I say that? Not regardless of who they are. I'm more like in a company kind of setting where I have to do a lot of meetings and maybe just talk to people about projects and whatnot. But we'll get to that later. I mean, this kind of podcast is kind of like an introductory kind of thing, whereas I just talk about what's been up with me, what interests me. Um, Maybe we'll get into a topic or two, but I'm not really concerned. Um, yeah, I also want to get the another reason with the communication skills at least is because I'm a tutor right now, and although I'm pretty good at tutoring math, man, do I suck at speaking. My voice just cracks up every time. It's so. Let me tell you, it's really embarrassing when you're trying to tutor someone and it's a really serious topic because they're trying so hard to do well in a class or whatever, and you're like, all right, let's do this, you got it, you have the skills, you're smart, and then your voice freaking cracks in the middle of a math explanation. It is the most awkward feeling I've experienced in a long time, and it's happening a lot. So slowly I'm actually becoming used to it, but I'm trying to improve that. I'm trying to keep my voice vocal. I want to improve my communication. I want to, I don't know, get better at sipping water between intervals of talking to keep my throat moist. To keep that voice going. Um, but yeah, what else do I have here? So like you're probably wondering like what is the podcast about? Well, you know, it's it's kind of funny because like looking back at it now, I have an all right kind of life. I'm not really doing much at the moment. I'm just going to university, but it's I just kind of wanted to talk about things that bothered me, things that annoyed me, things that I enjoy, things that I've done before. So like kind of like stories, topics that are kind of prevalent nowadays, topics that may not be so prevalent, but I kind of want to touch on. But another thing that I wanted to do, which I think is a little different, is that I want to bringing guests on isn't exactly a unique thing in podcasts. They do it all the time. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to bring people on and basically revolve the topics around those kinds of people, because a lot of people are different. Um, Oh, okay. So we're back to recording. Sorry, I had a dinner break, and but yeah, that kind of going coincides with how like this podcast isn't gonna be the most serious thing. We may tackle more serious topics. Most likely in a lighthearted manner, though. Um, and like my views on these kinds of harder topics or more dark topics. But don't worry, don't worry. It's not gonna cause any of you like anxiety or anything like that. Um, but yeah. So what was I talking about before? Yeah, I was talking about how I wanted to bring different people on. So I think where I left off was how different people have different things that make them unique, right? So um, some people could be more into sports. Some people could be more into video games. Some people could be into technology as a whole, the newest like Apple updates or um, what's the newest Android phone, what's the newest software, etc. Some may be into the arts, some may be into drama, some may be into other things. Sorry about that. My dad had the bright idea to put little booties on my big ass fucking dog's, feet. And if y'all have ever seen like a video of a dog putting on shoes and then trying to walk around, that was my dog just then. Um, Even running outside in the snow, um, his back legs were like shooting up. But anyway, so back to the podcast and what it's going to be about. Um, so yeah, like essentially that's the idea. Some podcasts may just be me, just talking about things. I have a list of ideas and we'll go off of that. But when I'm lucky and some friends actually decide to talk with me or feel comfortable on the microphone, and just talking to whoever listens to the podcast, then we'll get them on here and we'll tackle, not even tackle, we'll just talk about things. I keep on saying tackling, like this is football. We're gonna take down these issues and just end them, but no. We're just gonna talk about stuff. um, I think one of my um, I think my girlfriend Isabella wanted to talk about a few things. We'll get to that a little later. But I asked her if we could talk about like a cool idea, like cool topics. Like I want to talk about like aesthetic and just the entire idea of it, and the top brands and the hype beasts and everything. Because me and her kind of have different views on it. Sometimes she agrees with my views. Sometimes I agree with her view. But I think it's a cool topic to talk about, and just how like people have different styles. People have different takes on like what makes them fashionable, and just like the fashion industry in general. Like how does it work even? Like, does someone just say I like this outfit, or maybe someone just says, or someone of popular culture, like the main one that comes to mind is like Kanye. He just wears something, it doesn't even fucking look good, right? But it be just because it's Kanye, everyone just loves it and just rushes to it. Like I had this entire like discussion with my brother and like some of his friends that like Yeezys are some of the ugliest shoes I've ever seen. Yet when I go to school every day, it's the shoe that is the most prevalent, and like everyone just needs to have it. Everyone needs to have that clout. Everyone needs to like show off. And you know what? Like I gotta admit, sometimes I want to show off as well, just get that recognition. But like at the same time, that's a lot of people. You know. Um, a lot of people just want that recognition. A lot of people want to be known. Um, I guess that kind of goes into, um, a topic that I want to talk about in the future. The main topic that I think I may talk about on the next one is going to be legacy, in terms of, what goals, aspirations, work that you have to do, the friendships you create, the media that follows you, or anything like that. Um, and the thing was that actually came from would you rather thing that I was doing with my friends, whereas it was like, would you rather be famous when you were alive, or would you rather be well known, or sorry, it was famous when you were alive but forgotten when you're dead, or would you just be a regular old schmuck when you're alive but be remembered when you're dead? And a lot of us had different views on it. But I said, like, I really want to be remembered when I'm dead. The reason is because, if in the future people invent a revival machine or whatever, I want to be first in line. I want to be brought back to life. You know. But once again, we'll talk about this more on the next one. This one's kind of just like an intro, right, and just me just talking. And so the next thing on my list. Oh, by the way, I have a list of kind of things that I'm going down on, kind of seeing like what I should talk about on this one. So, um, the first one I want to talk, or I think the first real topic of my podcast is going to be, what have I been up to? So, okay, so if you do tune in and, you know me, then you probably know what's been up with me. Although I'm not exactly the most or the best person in terms of my social media. Like, I barely post on Instagram. I think the last time I posted on Instagram was like September, not even September. Actually, it was around September. Um, and same with Twitter. I think the last time I tweeted, or like an actual tweet of mine, was like 2 years ago. Other than that, I've just been retweeting things. Um, Same with Snapchat. I don't really update on my story, which is why it's probably gonna be surprising to see my Snap story probably like promoting this podcast or just Instagram or Twitter or whatever. Hopefully, I can get some following, or just get it out there for anyone to see or listen to. But where was I? So what have I been up to? So uh, what what am I doing with my life right now? Um, well, I'm 19 years old. Um, I graduated high school a year and a half ago now, or let's just say 2 years ago. No one says a year and a half. And I decided to go to the University of Toronto, the St. George campus, which is like downtown Toronto. Um, so what I'm doing is I'm commuting. I don't live on residence because that is expensive as fuck. I have a friend that commutes, or doesn't commute, that lives on residence, or he lives like close by, and it's just the expenses with it are just so horrible. But commuting isn't that bad, actually. Either I stay up late at night and I just sleep on the train, or I bring my DS because I'm a little video game nerd, and I just play there. But let me say that some of the people on the train look absolutely depressed. It's sad. Um, I'm not saying that I don't look depressed, because like I have a constant like I have a resting bitch face, as they call it. Like, don't fucking talk to me. But these guys, they look genuinely depressed. Like, because it's like that 9 to 5 job. They got to get up every morning. They got to support the family. Meanwhile, I'm just here, playing my video games, going to school, and then just, sometimes I go to school, but then I just look at like my phone, or just look at memes and videos for like the entire day, and don't feel bad about it at all. But these guys, they they got a hard life. But anyway, um, so I commute, take the subway. Then I just go to class. I'm like every other university student. Um, what's my program? Well, so this is where the what's been up with me, or like if you guys haven't seen me or talked to me since like high school or whatever. So initially I was gonna go into computer science. Um, So it was looking good. I had good marks in high school, and I was really passionate about computer science. My first semester didn't have the courses that, or I'm talking about first year. So this is first year. I'm in second year now, but first year, um, I had courses that were relatively simple. So I had a beginner programming course where I learned like Python and stuff like that. Um, and then in my what else did I have? I had Psychology 101 or 100, which was really interesting. And then I had like this public art class, which was super cool, where you just walk around Toronto and you talk about public art. Um, Funny enough, I did there under the Trump Tower in Toronto. There's actually a multicultural mosaic piece, and I decided to do it on that because it's beautiful irony. But that was an awesome class. I love the teacher. Kids were kind of assholes, but it was my favorite. It's still my favorite class of university so far. And then I had like my calculus and sociology. So the second semester came around, and that's when I had my two other courses. And the two courses that mattered for my program, man, it just it was the worst time of my life. I remember I was just doing projects and I was so depressed because I wasn't getting it, or like the program wasn't working, or my mark wasn't as high as everyone else's because I was commuting, or I wasn't working as hard. I was procrastinating, and it sent me into a spiral. Um, but you know what, like I'm trying to keep positive right now because it's the intro. But let me just say that the computer science program, it's something else at U of T. But anyway, so long story short, I didn't make it into the program. They have a cutoff average, which if you don't know, if your mark isn't that high or isn't high enough, you just get cut from the program. And you could retry in later years, but it's even higher for you if you're not even in the program anymore. And the marks keep on increasing and increasing. Like 3 years ago, it was like a 50 to get in, and last year it was like, or this year it was like an 83, uh, just for comparison. So so as for my other courses, I did fine. I mean, funny enough, I love telling this story to people because so my calculus mark in high school was like a 95 or something. I was really good at calculus, and then in university, my first year of calculus was a 51. Don't mean to brag, but that's a fucking big ass drop. A lot of people like to brag about how their marks increased. I brag about how much my mark decreased in university. Um, but yeah, so I passed all my first year courses, but I was left in like this pit of like, what do I do? Like, I'm no longer in my program. This was like my first experience of like having things not go your way, in terms of like school and marks. So I was freaking out. Um, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to still do computer science, and there was just all these things flowing through my head. But I ended up staying at U of T, and I honestly still don't know the reason why. Maybe that answer will maybe it'll come to me one day, but at the moment it's just I'm just doing it to do it, right? It's just a thing now. It's a thing that I do. It's a big part of my life, but it's not the most prevalent part in my life. Actually, it is the most prevalent, but I'm trying to focus on more things, and I'm trying to be more positive, and I'm trying to get my studying habits down because those transfer into later life skills, and I'm all about development, dog. This is all about development. As a human being, you need to develop into a higher human being, to that next plane of existence. um, but yeah, so that happened to me. So I'm at U of T right now. I just finished first semester, um, and I'm starting this podcast right now. But second year has been great for me so far. My courses have been going really well. It's like that. change. It's like what people say, how first year is the hardest. Like it's so true for me because like second year came around, all my courses have been going really well. In my calculus, my second year calculus course, this is a direct continuation of last year. My mark right now is like an 80, which is insane to me because just like last year I was struggling so hard. Like a 70 was a good mark, or like not even a 70, like a 65 was a good mark for me. And this year I'm just, I don't know what changed, or if like my studying has changed, or if the course content has gotten easier. But I'm gonna let it slide. I'm gonna let the UFT professor slide here, um, and thank him for giving me a good grade. Um, you know, but yeah, that's been what's been going on in terms of school for me, at least. That's I mentioned school first because that's the thing I'm doing most at the moment, um, and it's probably the most interesting, or the thing that has the most interest. But I can talk about other things too, or I'll stay on school a little bit longer. So essentially, hmm, I what else did I want to talk about with school? I'm really excited, or I'm not too excited for the next coming years because it's just been. Oh shit! I totally forgot that as to why or what I'm doing now in terms of UFT is now I'm a double major in mathematics and statistics. Statistics, meh. I'm just doing it because I'm really hoping that there's a job out there for me. I'm not the most passionate about it. But then again, I kind of lost my passion for computer science as well, which sucks because I know it's going to have to come back into my life eventually. Um, but like math, that's something like last year I hated math, probably because I was doing so poorly in it. But I kind of realized that like math is, it's a thing that I'm good at, and I enjoy it when I work hard on in it and I do well in it. Right? I think that's the problem with a lot of people is like, um, they can be. That's like the thing. Like a lot of people are really passionate about stuff when they're good at it. Right? If say you start something and you kind of progress in it, right? And that progression is kind of slow. It essentially, like, it takes time for a person to actually be good at something, right? It doesn't happen like that unless you're naturally gifted or blessed, or genetically enhanced, whatever, right? But the majority of us have to take time with it. So with that slow progression, you progressively become better and better and better until you kind of reach this peak, right? Or even, you're kind of at this, like, what in math terms, it's like a local max versus local mins, right? So there technically a point can be a local max and then decline and then increase again, etc., etc. But I'm probably boring you at this point. Um, but essentially, you hit a local max, right? And then some shit happens, some you get a bad mark, or like something happens that kind of degrades your performance, or kind of degrades that passion, right? So you go down a little bit, but then you increase back up because this hit may not be too hard, right? So you're progressing again, you're progressing, and then you hit another local max, right? And this continues until you're at a really high point. And that was kind of me with computer science. I was at a really high point. I've done like at that point in university, I've been doing like 2.5 years of computer science and programming, and I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought I was pretty good at it. I made 2 games at that point. I worked on a few projects, right? And I've been getting good marks in it, right? But then all of a sudden it just hits you. This is not like those old hits where you get a bad mark or you're throwing a curveball. This was one of those hits that just like it destroyed me, right? It was like one of those things where you're so positive, and then it just hits you into the negative, and I'm still there right now. It's still kind of decreasing, or it's kind of hit that like point where it's like not even moving anymore. But we'll see. The knowledge is still there, but it's hard to get back into it. I think that's the case for a lot of people. Um, and it kind of relates to a lot of things for me as well in terms of soccer. I was pretty good at it, and then I got cut from the rep team in my final year of player in like my 8th year, and it went down. It hit a really, like, once again, it was one of those turns. But then in high school, I joined the senior team, and I was almost starting lineup because all of a sudden I was fast or whatever. And it was going up again. And then my grade 12 year, I was like, yes, I'm finally starting. I'm so excited. And this random kid just comes on, and he's way better than me. Props to him, right? But I got benched, which sucks. So once again, this thing just hit me, and now I'm not playing anymore, which is fine because I don't really have time for it. And I don't actually enjoy soccer that much anymore. Maybe I'll like it again, but I like other sports better now. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened with me and computer science in school. It was just, it hits you. And the only advice that I can give to people that is relevant is just to keep moving. I think, I'm not going to tell you to try and go back to it, whatever you do, because sometimes, things just don't work out that way, or the world doesn't provide you with opportunities to do that. Or maybe you shouldn't just be there, which kind of sounds like pessimistic or anything, but that's just the way life goes. And to go from that, the way, like, I actually really like that phrase. That's just the way life goes, because life may throw you into a loop, but you just got to keep moving, right? Just go with the punches. Just keep moving, wherever it takes you. You may not like where it's taking you, but you just got to go. Like, there's no, like, I was just sitting around doing nothing. And I was really depressed and just sad that I didn't make it to my program. But, I literally said, like, fuck it. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Whatever it is, let's keep going. Because I promise you, if you just keep going, things will get better, right? That's enough philosophy for you. I just finished my first philosophy course, so now I think I'm some high and mighty philosopher named Aristotle, who loves math and just good shit. That was a dumb line. Let's forget that. I'm cutting that. I'm cutting that out. But yeah, so that's what's been up with me in terms of school. But what's some other interesting stuff that I've been up to with the rest of my life? Because school isn't my life. I'm not one of those. I used to be one of those nerds that would just come home, take his books, slam it on the table, and just study for like 3 hours. I remember I I hate saying this, because it sounds so stupid, but I guess I quotation marks curved this girl back in grade 8. This is when no one had a phone and we were all using Facebook. I think Facebook is such a dead fucking social media thing or website right now. But this is back when like Facebook Messenger was like the only way to communicate with your friends, right? If you had a phone, you were like the coolest kid. But yeah, so like this girl was sending me messages. She was being all like flirty and stuff, and me being like the kid that was so centered on like studying, didn't know many social cues, didn't really understand stuff like that. Like I was just not a smart kid. But yeah, so essentially she texted me or messaged me. She was like, what did she say? She was like, she was coming at me with like all this gossip, and she was like, "Oh my God, Brandon, someone said she likes you." I was like, I was dry as fuck. I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." She was like, "Yeah, she said that you have like really nice hair, blah blah blah," or I don't know if she said that, but she just kept on saying stuff, and I was like, "Okay, cool." And After a while, she was like, "You want to guess who it is?" And this is the most dry response. I didn't know I was being so fucking savage at that point until I came back to this years later when I was just looking, because I like deleted Facebook, but I re-downloaded it and all my messages are still there. So me and my girlfriend were looking through it, and it says, I swear to God, I responded. So she asked like, "Want to guess who it is?" And I said, "Nope, gotta go study. Bye." I swear to God, and that's where the conversation ended. I swear, when I was reading this, I died laughing. Laughing. I didn't know that I would be so fucking rude and mean to someone. And I like this is when I was in grade 8. Like what the fuck was that? I also told some of the other girls to like go make me a fucking sandwich. Because I thought it was the coolest fucking shit around. This is when I was like on 9gag and still looking at like lols cats memes and like those like really old memes like that, the beginner days. And I thought I was the shit because I was like responding to people, telling them to do something with like a meme, and they're like, "Ha ha ha, you're so funny." Yeah, no, I was a fucking moron. Um, but yeah, where where was I? What was I talking about in the first place? Oh God, now I'm kind of lost. Um, oh yeah, like what else have I been up to? Um, well, if you were, if you're listening to this and you were in high school or now you're just getting to know me, well, hello, uh, name's Brandon. People like to call me Bran. They used to call me BJ. For obvious reasons, that's my initials. Um, but yeah, so used to be a really big comic nerd. I'm looking around in my room right now, and I still see like $2,000 worth of comics. Um, but I kind of stopped. I've kind of hit that plateau, as I mentioned earlier. Some comics still interest me, and every now and then I go on the forums and I'm like, oh, what's happening here? I'm like, that's dope as hell. I'm not gonna buy it, but that's dope as hell. Um, but what have I been really into lately? Well, the gym has kind of been pretty cool. It's not the best lately because like I'm sore as hell all the time and like movements aren't being nice to me, and I'm not getting stronger and I'm not getting bigger because that takes a lot of work, and I don't really want to do that at that point in my this point in my life. Maybe I do. It's like this constant battle with myself. Um, but yeah, so like gym is always kind of gonna be there. I'll go like 3 times or 4 times a week. If I'm feeling really good, like over the summer, I'll do like 5 to 6. But at the moment in school, I'm not really too concerned about it. So 2 things crossed off the list. So we have the gym, comics, video games. That's gonna be a big topic in one of my next coming podcasts. Like video games have been such a big part of my life. If a guy comes up to you and he's like, I've never played video games before. He's like, my favorite games are like FIFA, NBA, or any of the sports game. Just leave him, right? He does not know that good culture, that good shit, that video game shit, right? And I'm not talking like fucking, oh, let's play fucking Call of Duty or what's another popular game that's kind of shit. Um, so there's Call of Duty, there's like FIFA, there's NBA, 2K, and maybe there's something else I can't remember. Or all those like fucking PUBG games or like open world like games on like Steam. Not that great. Like PUBG or the Steam games, pretty alright. But like all the other games, those are just ass, just whatever. But anyway, so if someone comes up to you and tells you, "Oh, I don't play those," like they only play these games, just like you could tell what kind of video game person they are. Like they in it for something else. They're like, they're not in the culture. They're gonna be a fuck boy straight up, and just accusing anyone listening to this right now and only plays those games, you're a fuck boy. um, but yeah, video games are gonna be a pretty big topic. I think that's gonna be by myself because like a lot of people like a lot of my friends play, but they don't play as extensively as I do. Um, I mean, I have one person in mind, but we'll see. We'll see how comfortable he is. Um, yeah, so I've been playing a lot lately because like the Nintendo Switch just came out. And if you're not into video games, I'm not gonna bore you. But like some of the games that are out right now, ooh, so spicy, so good. It like spend so many hours on it, and it's like the time just flies by when you're playing them. But I was looking at my time actually on these video games because you could do that with the new system. And one of the games I have like over like 60 hours, right? And like another one I have like 20 hours, and another I have 15, and another I have 20. But the thing is, like, I'm not playing it like religiously. I'm not playing it like, when I wake up and then all the way to when I go to bed, and then I repeat and rinse and repeat like 3 days in a row. No, I've been playing casually. Like, when I come home from school, I play like an hour or 2 hours, depending on the day. And then on the weekends, I play like another hour or 2 hours. When I'm on break, like reading week or something, maybe I have a longer session with like 4 hours, but you know, that's the beauty of games. Like, you can either binge it or you can, well, that's kind of like shows too. Um, but I don't really like TV shows too much, which I get a lot of hate for because like, actually, I'll talk about this next. So you know what? Straight up, one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone tells me, "Oh my god, this show is so good. You haven't watched it yet?" Nope. I don't intend to either, or I'm not going to. The reason, I I just don't know. I honestly don't know. I think like with shows, the problem I have with it is they're either too short, right? I don't like TV shows that have like 6 episodes or something like that. Even if they're long, whatever, 6 episodes, not enough, right? Or I hate it when it's too long. Like 24 episodes. Like who's gonna watch 24 episodes in one season, right? Um, who, but like if even if they hit that good time, like the perfect range for episodes, it's got to be like 10 to 14. Like that's the good range, good range. It keeps people interested, whatever. But that's not me. I like in a TV show, if they have 10 to 14 episodes, like say it's even that optimum length, it's still like an hour, 30 minutes long each episode, right? I can't do it, right? The only shows that I've ever completed or which I enjoy watching, right, are animated series. So like one of my favorite animated series of all time, or actually just television shows in general, is Futurama. I have watched that series over like 100 times. It's so good, and if you guys have watched Futurama or anyone has watched Futurama, you already know that it's so good. Maybe it was because I was growing up, um, and I thought like all like animated stuff was just the best, or like they have that sort of slapstick comedy that I'm a really big fan of. But it was great, right? I have a big hard on for why did I say that for like animated stuff. I love, but not like the new like animated like 3D stuff that looks really detailed. I like the simple stuff. So like think about like Futurama, think about Simpsons, think about like those old 80s or 90s or like anime cartoons that were like in America. So like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, shit like that, right? That is my favorite animation style, right? Um, and like the my favorite like animated movies of all time, or a couple of them are like Atlantis, like Treasure Planet is by far my favorite Disney movie. Um, a lot of people question me on it, but like it's got that style. It's got that 3D mixed with the 2D. It's that style. It's so good. But yeah, so I don't like TV shows. Right? I really don't. I love animated TV shows that are usually comedies, or maybe they don't even have to be comedies really. They just have to be really well animated, and they have to be kind of short. Um, and they have to be just good quality shows. Like I don't like watching a shitty show uh for example, I question my parents sometimes. They if if any of you know about like the Grown Up Squad, right? So we're talking about like Rob Schneider, um, Adam Sandler, um, Kevin James. So like Chris Rock is he's all right. He's all right. Um, and David Spade, I think. Yeah, yeah. So like those guys, it's I hate their comedy. I used to be a big fan of it when I was like 5 and had no concept of like actual comedy. Um, I thought like fart jokes were funny and stuff like that. But like he has a new show. My parents thought it was the funniest fucking shit that hit the planet. I watched 5 minutes of it. I couldn't stand 5 minutes longer because I was like it just didn't make me laugh. It was making me like actually kind of angry just watching it. Like how like how does this work? How does someone have this kind of show? Um, but yeah, like just just great comedy. Um, so yeah, don't like TV shows. That was um, but I love movies. God, I freaking love movies. I think in terms of like all the art medias that are out there, so like you have your liberal arts, like your paintings, which um and other stuff like just like paintings and stuff. Never been a really big fan. I love a good piece of art though. um music, I love music, but like I'm not like head over heels for it, right? Like I think music plays a pivotal part in many things today, and it can create emotions and it can evoke certain feelings within you, but not my favorite, right? Um, what was the third art medium? I'm trying to think now. Um, Dance, never really been a big fan of dance. Um, Although I do appreciate what all the dancers do because it's awesome. If like honestly, if I could dance, I think it's cool, but I can't dance because I'm a white boy that is awkward as fuck on the dance floor. But if I could dance, then hell yeah, I'd be all in it. In like looking up different dance moves. But I still, once again, I'm not hating on any of the art mediums. I just have a certain preference for some of them. Now, the reason why I love movies, right? I think Hollywood is like the worst place on the planet, or just LA in general, or whatever. But I love movies, right? Um, which is why this year was kind of disappointing for me, right? Like I was talking to my friend about it in the car ride home from like the new Star Wars, right? I'm not gonna spoil it or anything, but I was like, um, well, if you guys have seen like the reviews or anything, it was like, it was all right, right? But it wasn't my favorite, right? I was like telling him like, man, there have not been too many great movies. Like, there's been good movies, but there haven't been too many like great movies, like things that I found amazing that should or I'm gonna remember, right? So my mind instantly went to, I think, like 2 years ago. This is the year that like Whiplash and like Birdman came out, right? And I thought that was like one of the best years for film because I was watching these movies and I was just thoroughly enjoying like every single thing about each of these movies, and they all had something different about them that I truly could remember. Like I could remember, like it created that legacy for me, like that I will remember this film for a very long time, right? This year, not so much. I think the main film that I really enjoyed was Logan, right? uh, Granted, I haven't seen every movie out there. That's why I'm kind of waiting for the Oscars just to tell me which movies are good or not. I know I'm really biased and I'm really, you know but yeah, so not a lot of good ones this year, unfortunately, which is why I was really fed up. But anyway, why do I love movies? Well, they take bits and pieces from all of the other art mediums that I mentioned before, right? So, um, like art, right? Like you like there's different forms of art in there, right? Like depending on this cinema. cinematography or the music. I was telling my friend that in Star Wars, the music can never go wrong. The music is always on point. I was in the movie theater and I was just feeling things, I was going through the motions. It was that great. And I told my friends, I was like, the movie was meh in my opinion, but man, it was one of those Star Wars movies you cannot replicate. A Star Wars movie, watching a Star Wars movie for the first time in like a theater or wherever, because it's just amazing. Just like the music makes it, and also if it's paired with like a visually stunning piece of cinema, then you are just left there stunned. You're like, what do I do with my life now? Can I continue to be the way that I was before after watching this piece, right? But so that's why I think music is probably the most important part of a movie. Actors are meh, I'd like them to act. I'd like them to be good actors, but for me, music is a very important part of movies. Also, just cinematography. I want like pieces that make me go wow, right? Like, did that just happen? And like it leaves like this visual imprint in my mind of just like, did that just did that just occur? Am I ever gonna forget this? Um, but yeah, so that's why this year wasn't that great. Also, going back to animation, some of my favorite movies of all time are animated movies. Um, so like I said, Treasure Planet, one of my favorite movies of all time. If y'all have not seen that, y'all gotta get. I keep on saying y'all. I'm not, not that kind of person. um, if you all have not seen that movie, you all have to go check it out because it is a banger. It is such a banger. What are some my other favorites? I just watched. Okay. There's two different ways to pronounce it. There's Akira and there's Akira, which is considered to be one of the greatest anime movies of all time. So this has to go again with my view on like animation. This movie is from like the 1980s, and it has that really old timey animation feel, and you could tell like how much work and how much effort they put into this movie. And it's not like some of the new like 3D stuff. Like no, like I like Moana and I like all the 3D stuff, but it's not my favorite. Right? This movie is visually stunning. It's I think it's like a 2 hour long movie, but it just like I was just glued to my seat. I was glued to the screen and my seat, and I just couldn't move. I was just that, like, one of those like old IMAX commercials where it's like "Duh," and it's like they always have like the meme, or not the meme, they always have the joke where like everyone is pushed back into their seats. That's how I felt watching this movie. That's how great it was. And it's like, even just watching it once, it's one of my favorites of all time. Um, some other movies that are my favorites, man, really like Star Wars. Star Wars is pretty great. I'm not gonna mention any superhero films. The reason being is because I feel like a lot of them are following this kind of. My brother mentioned it to me first, that they're all following this kind of cookie cutter um, thing, like this pattern of just doing the same thing over and over again. And I'm starting to see it, which is why like superhero movies are not doing it for me anymore. I go see them because I'm always gonna be a comic book fan, but I want them to change stuff up a little bit. Because like they're just gonna, once again, this is the problem with Hollywood. They're just gonna ride stuff out until it stops making them money, which is why they're gonna, and fans are gonna keep on liking it. As long as they please the majority, the minority will have to suffer, which is me in this case, because I want them to do stuff that's different. But yeah, so what's some other really good movies? I'm trying to think now, because there's so many that you kind of lose track of like your absolute favorites, which kind of sounds stupid to say, but yeah. I really liked Chappie. Chappie was like is kind of it's like from the same guys that developed like District 9, but not a lot of people liked it, but I loved it because I thought it was unique. I thought it was a different idea. Um, and it was different, definitely interesting. Like a lot of the movies that are different. They set tones. They kind of go away from like the usual, right? Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed that film. But it wasn't too well known, I don't think. I think a decent number of people saw it, but not like to the levels of like, oh, did you see the new Star Wars or anything like that. Like when me and friends saw it, it was like two other people in the theater. I really enjoyed Kick Ass as well. That was another movie that wasn't too well known, but I loved it. Once again, that's okay. I know that I'm contradicting myself in saying that I'm not going to mention any comic book movies, but man, that is something different. Once again, that is such a different movie, and I thought it was awesome. Although I would have liked them to keep the ending from the original comic, but that was a good movie. I still enjoy watching it today. Um, I don't really, what, I'm gonna come back to this next podcast. I'm just gonna start it with my favorite movies. If y'all are gonna, if you all are gonna keep coming back, this is gonna be a story. It's gonna be like start every podcast with a list, just one from the list of my favorite movies. That's just gonna be the intro. Why I like this movie and why it's on my list. No, I'm joking. We'll do something different. Like I said, this is kind of just the intro. Um, Technically, this at the moment of recording this podcast still doesn't really have a name. Um, but I'm still thinking. The couple that ran through my mind was me and Izzy were talking about it. I'm sorry that, and she was, or I came up with the idea of sauerkraut. Another one that I came up with when I was talking with other friends was existential questions or existential crises. But I think that name is already taken somewhere. Definitely don't want copyright issues on this podcast of like 10 listeners. um, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what kind of names I think of. By the end or when this is posted, it'll most likely have a name. Maybe I'll go through this and think of a clever name. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna end the podcast here. This is actually a pretty good session. I felt really comfortable towards the end. Um, and yeah, so I forgot to mention that. So, along with the podcast, kind of the ideas are going to be revolving, right? This isn't going to be one of those podcasts that is just like the same topic, um, like over and over and over again, or just like uh, developing or talking about one topic. Although I may revisit topics like, for example, movies and just like analyze or not analyzing stuff. I don't want to bore you guys too much. But just like talking about certain things, like what I enjoy, and may go back to it or whatever. But a majority of the time, it's going to be different topics. Different things to tackle, or what's another word for like tackle or take on or look at or on. I'm listing them right now. So yeah, we're gonna look at a lot of stuff. Hopefully, it's more interesting with more than one person. Because you guys are probably sick of my voice by the end of this. What time is it? Oh Jesus, 54-minute long podcast. Um, but yeah, so the next one, we're gonna talk more about like we'll have I think I'm gonna have three topics for the next one. It's gonna be like legacy. We're gonna talk about procrastination and some other stuff. I don't want it to be static, so you guys will just have to wait and see. Um, but yeah, so for this podcast, I did want to kind of make it bi-weekly. I am gonna try my best to stay to it. I don't think it's gonna be that hard because it's gonna be like an hour long, um, and it's just gonna be me sitting down and talking about stuff. I'll try and get as many people as I can on this because um, I think this podcast is really cool. You know, I'm just gonna say right now, this fucking podcast, it fucks this podcast. um, but yeah, so expect podcasts like bi-weekly. Maybe if I, am feeling good or I have more time, I'll do weekly over the summer, if I have more time. But yeah, so that's gonna be the end of this podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. Oh, I got it this time. I didn't say y'all. And I'm gonna leave you off. Or what the hell did I just say there? um, I really don't know how to end this podcast. Usually they'd say something funny, or they'd just, they've fucking cut off or something. But I'm trying to think of something unique, you know. So you know what? I'm gonna read the terms and conditions of my Subway gift card. So Subway carb terms, functions as gift cards and rewards card. We will only replace the remaining balances on lost, stolen, or damaged cards if your card is registered online at www